Relax. Relax. Let it go, Lim. Lim, you're flexing. Let it go, Lim. Lim, that's it. You're flexing.
Richie Aprile was always flexing. Indeed, he was always fronting with bold claims about being from the old school, which in the Sopranos world meant that he was a better, more serious, more committed, more honorable mobster than anyone from the current generations. Ultimately, however, Richie could talk the talk, but he couldn't walk the walk. He could sing it, but he couldn't bring it or bring anything much beyond being cruel, vicious, and vindictive. To some extent, these are necessary traits in a mobster, but they're not the only keys to success. In short, Richie Aprile never had the makings of a varsity mob boss. In that sense, Richie Aprile was an awful lot like Junior Soprano, who also aspired to head the New Jersey mob to middling if not disastrous effect. Despite their protestations to the contrary and their deep-seated belief that they'd been unfairly passed over for a role they deserved, neither of them had the real makings of a varsity mob boss, and the similarities go much deeper. In the case of Corrado, he was always in the shadow of his kid brother, from the time they were kids, and figuratively speaking, long after Johnny Boy was dead. Johnny Boy became a made man before Corrado, despite being the younger of the two. Junior likewise took a back seat to Johnny Boy when it came to the ladies, particularly Fran Felstein, a woman Junior loved. Fran saw strength in Johnny Boy that Junior lacked. Even years later, it was the same story. Corrado had paid his dues over the long haul and was among the oldest, most experienced mobsters in New Jersey. But after Jackie Aprile passed away, it was his kid brother's son Tony who commanded the respect of their criminal peers. Tony, of course, provided Junior with the illusion of control, while in reality he was the one calling the shots. Ultimately, Junior was arrested, which saved him from the wrath of his nephew after a botched hit. Junior may not have gotten the respect he so desperately wanted, but he was old school at least in the sense that he respected the code and kept his mouth shut, refusing to cooperate with the feds. Richie likewise spent a stretch of time in the can, and he too knew how to keep his mouth shut, though he bragged about it much more than Junior, suggesting he was flexing and was only old school in a very, very limited sense. Once he was released from the can, however, he couldn't shut up about reminding everyone that he was from the old school in general, a superior mobster to the current crop. Indeed, he marched right out of the prison gate flexing. In reality, however, Richie was an insecure menace who did not respect the new pecking order and couldn't deal with the reality that he was a broken-down has-been with no power. Richie was no fan of Tony's protege Moltisanti, warning him to keep his hands off of his niece Adriana. Richie was disgusted when he found out he would only have limited direct contact with Tony. Richie went wild on poor Beansy and tried strong-arming him for past dues. Tony warned him to leave Beansy alone, but he didn't. Richie went after Beansy again, paralyzing the poor fellow with his car. Richie even disrespected Tony at his own card game when he went after Davey, who also owed him. The reality was, Richie had no respect for Tony despite the old school way to defer to the boss. Richie viewed him as nothing more than a former subordinate who was friends with his kid brother. And despite frequently boasting about being from the old school, Richie resented Tony, similar to the way Feech LaManna later would. Feech didn't want to take orders from Tony either, and Feech was another loose cannon who caused Tony various headaches, initiating a heated lawn-cutting dispute and jacking cars from Tony's friend's daughter's wedding. To Feech, Tony was still that same punk kid who had the audacity to rob his card game, that same punk kid who made poor Feech look like a complete asshole. Feech was a proud man with a reputation who could command an audience, but Tony symbolically robbed Feech all over again when he stole his thunder at the card game with that awful boring 747 joke. Feach Jr. and Richie were all from the old school, and one thing about those old school guys, they didn't like taking orders from the younger generation. Richie himself claims to have played an instrumental role in helping smooth things over for his kid brother Jackie and Tony following the Feach LaManna card game robbery. But even here, I suspect Richie is just flexing. Tony had pull that went well beyond what Richie was capable of providing, namely his old man Johnny Boy, along with his all-star JV sidekick Corrado. Richie acted as if he, and he alone, saved Tony from the wrath of Feach. But we all know that isn't true. Feach wasn't gonna listen to any young punks back then, even if Richie was a slightly older punk than Tony. Another thing Richie did when he got out of the can was reconnect with his former flame, Tony's sister Janice. There may have been men in the can prettier than Tony's sister, but Richie had his sights set on his beloved Janice throughout his entire stint in the can, suggesting some kind of bizarre love-hate relationship with the family in general, or perhaps he simply wanted to flex that he was sleeping with Tony's sister. Of course, this only served to intensify the already uneasy relationship between Richie and Tony, where Janice would frequently pour more fuel all over the roaring fire, as was her way in many things. Given that Richie already had a resentful attitude toward Tony, Janice was able to get him really fired up to the point that his Manson lamps would emerge on full display. And whenever the Manson lamps made an appearance, you could be sure that Richie was flexing. The one time Richie appeared to make an offering of respect to Tony, it was really just another blatant act of flexing showmanship. Richie acted as if that jacket he got after beating up Rocco DeMeo was the holy grail of mobster attire. The jacket looked awful on Tony, but he politely accepted the gift before giving it to his maid's husband. Richie was horrified by this discovery and took it as an act of utter disrespect. Oof, madame. How dare that punk kid just give away the legendary old jacket he won after he bested Rocco DeMeo? Richie and Jr. ultimately begin selling drugs along the garbage route, and this even further angers Tony. But Uncle June doesn't care because he depends on that money. This enraged Tony some more, who again ordered Richie to stop. And by this point, Richie and Janice were engaged and Tony simply couldn't extricate himself. He couldn't help himself either, telling Janice he didn't want Richie around his children, which, needless to say, only infuriated Richie once again when she told him. That Janice sure knows how to play them, even if her skills pale in comparison to Livia. Richie is furious, but he is not stupid either. Richie knows that Uncle June previously tried to have Tony whacked, and Richie understands that Junior must, on some level, resent Tony as much as he did. So Richie approaches Junior about a power play to remove Tony, and Junior plays along. But when Richie approached Albert Barisi for support, Barisi declined and refused to participate. After Junior hears the news, he suggests they sit tight and mull it over. Ultimately, the wisdom of Junior Soprano triumphantly emerged. Junior immediately recognized in Richie something he saw in himself, that he simply wasn't respected enough by the rest of the criminal family.
He couldn't fucking sell it. He's not respected.
Junior long lived in the shadow of his kid brother Johnny Boy, much in the same way Richie now lived in the shadow of his kid brother Jackie. Junior ultimately spills the beans to Tony, and Tony and Silvio make plans to eliminate Richie, but those plans never come together. Instead, feeling defeated by his failure with Barisi, but with his constant need to flex, Richie made the fatal mistake of flexing with Janice, striking his fiancée during an argument, completely forgetting that the Sopranos are all a bunch of nutjobs. Tony later learned from this taxing life lesson when Feach LaManna got out of the can, and Tony got ahead of that problem before it became a bigger problem, setting up poor Feach with a garage full of hot TVs. Tony may not have been from the old school, but he certainly commanded more respect than old school guys like Richie, Feach, and Uncle June. Those guys were all standouts on junior varsity, but none of them had the makings of a varsity mob boss like Tony. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed, and have a wonderful night.
You sure you're gonna be all right, Uncle Rich?
I want to walk. See if I run into any of the old crowd. That's all right. Take it easy, kid.
Bring this gentleman a nice veal palm sandwich and hurry the fuck up about it.
Look, kid, I shouldn't have to explain myself. I'm from the old school. You want to raise your hands, you give her your last name. I go away for a while, I come back. You're a tough guy.
Don't do this.
Don't do what? Take what's owed to me.
What's owed to you?
I put you in action, Beansy. I want to get my shy business back on its feet. I keep getting these calls from my brother Jack's customers. Where the fuck are you going?
I'll talk to you later, Richie.
You Parmesan sandwich.
Fuck you.
So, how long you been?
Out of jail? 1 week. That's where I picked up this yoga shit.
No, it's working for you. You seem very supple.
I do a lot of stretching. You want to tell me what just happened?
We're talking business with the skipper directly.
Are you fucking with me?
You can talk to him, but not now and never here.
You forget? When you and my kid brother stuck up Feature Lamanna's card game? Feature was made before the electric light. If it wasn't for me, you two kids would have caught a vicious beating, to say the least.
He's your boyfriend?
Don't you remember me? You used to yell at me for beeping my car horn when I came over to pick up Janice.
Pimp's beep.
You want to talk all this old school bullshit about the rules? Well, here's a rule you might remember. I'm the fucking one who calls the shots. And you better pay me the respect that I gave your brother, or we're gonna have a problem.
You want some eggs?
Don't want some eggs. Why don't you put your fucking pants on?
Come on, Rich, that's not necessary.
Kid, you think I started this life 10 minutes ago? Guy hands you a light envelope. It's just the beginning. Nothing personal.
I thought a lot about her.
10 years, you thought about Janice? There are men in the camp better looking than my sister.
Each his own, Tony. Each his own.
Let them pay me my money. Send them out. You go home, Richie. This ain't gonna happen to one of my players.
What?
Back off and respect the title, you fucking jerk off.
It's your ball. You make the rules.
No, I don't make them. They've always been there.
That's it. That's it. Oh! Huh? Perfect. You look like Robert Evans over here. It's a jacket. You're not wearing the jacket.
It's in the car. What, you want it back?
Jesus, are you fucking crazy? That's all I need now for that two-faced ungrateful fuck to think I had any part of this.
You gotta help me, man.
I'll help you. I'll fucking help you! I gave Tony a jacket. I took off Rocco DeMeo. Had a reputation as being the toughest guy in Essex County.
Liliana, the remote is down there somewhere, too. It's on the shelves.
Hello, missus. Thank you for tea.
Oh, Stashu, please, enjoy.
That jacket I gave your brother. And he spit on it. I could slice an ear off his head.
Because everyone's got a story about why they should go to the head of the line.
I've been in line for 10 fucking years.
My uncle's just asking for what my father would have given him if he was boss when Richie got out of prison.
I'm old school, Janice.
All I mean is my brother needs help.
I can't not notice that he's fucking you. This Catino bust out is like a license to steal. And what's he throwing your way? Regards. Teaching him manners is one thing.
My Uncle Junior still has friends, and Junior thinks the world of you.
He's gotta go.
That's my nephew you're talking about. How dare you in my own home?
Come on, Junior. This fucking guy was supposed to be laid out on Midland Avenue a year ago.
You got it? Don't give me your fucking Manson lamps. Just fucking stop. Another thing, don't tip a truck on a problem customer.
And this shit is okay with you?
I know how much you love him, Junior. I don't want to say anything disparaging. So what do you want me to do?
Go talk to Alley Boy. Feel him out. But he's a slippery fuck. Don't commit.
All things being equal.
No. Make a move against Tony Soprano. No way. I don't know what to tell you.
He couldn't fucking sell it. He's not respected.
Stay down. Don't move. Uncle June. I just said don't move him. Your sister's...
Fucking loser. He couldn't sell it.
Richie?
Pay attention. You just may learn something here.
And I want to thank you all for coming and celebrating with us this historical union.
I'm better off with Tony. What are you looking at?
I'm in awe of you.
I raised a non-issue and he fell for it.
So you're like a double agent now, huh? Fucking Matt Helm?
Fuck you.
You let him hold a gun to your head during sex?
Yeah, well, if that gets him off, I mean, it's not any different than garter belts and nurses' uniforms.
Well, it's a gun, Janice.
You know, Quasimodo predicted all this.
Relax. Come on. Let's go limp. Limp, you're flexing. Let's go limp. Limp, that's it. You're flexing.